The Classic TV channel is your happy trails to golden oldies television from the 1940s through the formative years of the 1950s and 60s. Enjoy restored TV shows Mickey Rooney Show, Groucho Marx, Trouble with Father, Terry and the Pirates, One Step Beyond, Beverly Hillbillies, Bonanza, The Lucy Show, Dick Van Dyke, Annie Oakley, Ozzie and Harriet, The Howdy Doody Show, and many, many more. Binge your night away. So return with us now to those golden days of yesteryear.
Public Defender. The public defender is a public servant employed by the community and responsible for giving legal aid without cost to any person who seeks it and is financially unable to employ private counsel. It is his duty to defend those accused of crime until the issue is decided in the court of law. The case you're about to see is about a young man who traveled more than 6,000 miles to find freedom, only to end up behind bars.
Operator, get me the police department, please. Hello, police. I have just killed a man. Yes. I'm Erich Bachman, 7325 La Trona Drive.
I was appointed to defend Erich Bachman on a charge of murder.
I have nothing to say.
Mr. Bachman, if I'm to defend you, you must help me. You must tell me something.
No. I have nothing to say.
Following my only lead, I went to Erich's home. The young woman who answered my ring was no more cooperative, but I was certain she knew more than she was willing to tell. Our investigation seemed to be leading us nowhere, until one day.
Mr. Matthews?
That's right.
Jeff Thomas.
Government. Come in, Mr. Thomas. Would you sit down?
Thank you.
What can I do for you?
I understand you're handling the Bachman case.
I've been trying to help the boy, but there's nothing much to go on. I don't think he said more than 10 words since he gave himself up.
There may be a reason for his silence.
What kind of a reason?
He doesn't know enough about the case to offer any defense. Only his sister and my office know the facts. Maybe I better start at the beginning. Erich and Wanda Bachman are refugees.
Jeff Thomas' story told of the hectic days a few years after the war. Armed guards protect the border. On one side, freedom. On the other, harsh regimentation. There were those who fought against this injustice, and those who felt their only escape was to cross that barrier to freedom. Foolhardy thing to do? Perhaps. But Erich and Wanda were young and brave and had their lives before them.
Halt, halt, halt! Halt, halt, halt!
Crippled Erich, but it did not deter him or his sister from accomplishing their goal, America. They took residence in a Midwestern city, and after the required time, both were granted their final citizenship papers.
Mr. Bachman?
Yes? Is there something I can do for you?
I am Hans Oberlander. I was told to look you up when I arrived.
I'm glad to meet you, sir.
I've just returned from a visit to the old country. Not far from where your father lives.
My father?
Let me put these down somewhere.
Oh, I'm sorry. Any place is all right. Please sit down. You said something about my father. You saw him. He lives.
I saw him less than 3 weeks ago.
You're certain? You're sure it is Paul Bachman, a teacher?
Well, he is not a teacher now. I think he is a janitor in a furniture factory. But I am certain it is he. When I told him I was returning to America, well, I had to pass. I had been living in New York for several years before I went back.
He's all right. I mean, did they do anything to him?
He looked quite well to me.
Almost 8 years we haven't heard from him. We were sure he was dead.
He's very much alive, I assure you. And he talked of nothing else but you. And is it Wanda, your sister? His children.
We're still trying to get him out. But the State Department, they tell us they have not been able to get much satisfaction.
I know what you mean. They never give out information.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Oberlander.
No, call me Hans. I feel we are good friends already.
We are. You brought me wonderful news. Come inside of the house. We can talk much better in there, and it's much more comfortable.
I'm sorry, I'm late, Erich.
Wanda, meet my very good friend, Hans Oberlander.
I'm happy to meet you.
Hello.
Brace yourself. I have big, wonderful surprise for you.
Surprise?
Wanda, Father is living. Hans has been telling me about it all afternoon.
I knew it. I told you, Erich, but you wouldn't believe.
I saw him just a few weeks ago. He sends you his love.
One of our letters got through to him. That's where Hans could find us.
The letter was well worn. It must have been read 1,000 times.
It was the one you wrote, remember, when we rented this house 3 years ago?
Oh, it was so nice of you to come to tell us. We have waited so long to hear.
You are everything he said you were. Prettier.
Tell me about Father.
Well, questions later. We must give Hans strength enough to answer them. He must have dinner with us. With wine. Californian wine. Everything American. You know, Hans is a citizen, too. Now for almost 2 years.
Wonderful.
That was a wonderful dinner.
The best part about it was hearing all about Father.
I didn't know how late it was. I haven't even registered at the hotel yet.
Well, Hans, why don't you stay here?
Oh, I couldn't.
Well, why not? We have an extra room. It's very small, but I'm sure you'd be comfortable.
Well, I wouldn't want to be in the way.
You have brought us very good news. You are welcome in our house.
They were happy, Wanda and Hans. Hans' stay lengthened into 2-3 weeks. On Saturdays, when Wanda had a day off from the defense plant, they went on a picnic. It wasn't long before Erich realized what was happening. It was obvious Wanda was falling for the attractive visitor.
You know, Wanda, I've been thinking.
Mm-hmm.
There might be a way of getting your father to America.
Yes, Hans? How?
I know some people who might be helpful.
Oh, but we have tried everything. We have written letters. We have tried the State Department, the immigration authorities. We have talked to anybody who would listen.
Yes, but I think that the people that I know would see to it that your father got across the border safely.
I don't understand.
Well, maybe I shouldn't suggest...
Oh, please, Hans, tell me.
Well, these things have happened before. I mean, you could sort of trade information for his freedom.
Hans, you speak in riddles.
Oh, it is no riddle. He worked in the electronics plant. I am told that they are experimenting with new radar and plane detection equipment. And if you could deliver them the plans for it, these people tell me they could deliver your father in return.
Oh, I couldn't.
Yeah, you probably have the secret anyway. Some people always profit by these things. It might as well be you. And I know how much you and Erich want your father with you.
No.
He wants so much to see you.
I'm all mixed up. Don't know what to think or say.
It would be so simple for you. You work in the duplicating department. You have access to all the blueprints. I would even be able to help you. Perhaps I could get in sometime.
I don't know. I don't know. They would free my father?
I am certain of it.
It's an awful thing. Oh, he's such an old man. I would want to see him, to have him with us before he dies. Erich must never know. You must promise.
Of course I promise. Erich must never know.
Wanda Bachman didn't sleep that night. Her father was dear to her. So was her new country, the freedom she and Erich had always wanted. The next morning, Wanda Bachman hurried into the federal building.
I thought I loved him. We seemed to have so much in common. And then there was my father. It's been years since Erich and I have seen him. He thought I was going to help him, but I couldn't, even if it meant my father.
Hans Oberlander, alias Robert Decker, alias Joseph Good. Suspected of arson at the Lee Chemical Plant in Jersey City. Sabotage of the Northern Aeronautical Industries at Evanston. Inciting a riot at Smithson Ball Bearing Company.
You know about Hans?
We know Mr. Oberlander very well. He was followed to your home. We have daily reports on everything he's done. And ever since he moved into your home, your brother's fix-it shop has been under surveillance. You have been watched closely at your work.
Oh, believe me, Mr. Thomas. We have not done anything wrong. Well, we've tried to be good citizens.
I know. But since he moved in, we had to be sure. His stories are lies, all of them. He never applied for citizenship. He's only been here 6 months. He was told to contact you because of your work at the plant and because they know of your father through letters they'd intercepted. Miss Bachman, your father was executed 3 days after your escape. I'm sorry. He went quickly. There were others who suffered a long time. Water?
No, thank you, Mr. Thomas. But if you knew so much about Hans, why hasn't he been arrested?
We could have deported him months ago.
Care what you do with him, but get him out of my house. I never want to see him again.
It's important to our country to find out the men he's working with. You, Miss Bachman, can help us.
I?
He trusts you. We need you.
I'd like to, Mr. Thomas. But how?
Think it over carefully, Miss Bachman. This could be a very difficult and dangerous job. I wouldn't want you to plunge into it without knowing exactly what could happen.
But I want to, Mr. Thomas. I must.
Good. Now then, there are several things that'll have to be straightened out. First of all, no one must know of this, not even your brother. You'll contact me here, except in case of an emergency. For that, you'll have a private telephone number.
Hello, Erich.
Hello.
Has Hans come home yet?
Hans? I don't like the way he acts. Maybe Wanda would like to talk to you seriously. Hans has been here for a very long time and...
Not now. I don't want to talk about it now.
You have something better.
Oh. I did not know that you had company.
Wanda, I want you to meet some friends of mine. Mr. Mueller, how do you do? And Mr. Grutter.
How do you do?
Child, Hans should consider himself fortunate working with you. Tonight, same place. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Good night.
Goodbye.
Grutter, he is the important one. I have already spoken to him about your father.
What did he say?
Once the plans are delivered, your father can cross the border.
Good.
Do you think you can get them?
They're not finished yet, but when they are, I will get them.
You are wonderful, darling. Oh, come on, some cooperation, sweetheart. It's getting late. What about dinner?
It'll only take a few minutes. We're having chops.
I hope you don't mind being your own cook tonight, Erich. Wanda and I are going to a party. Every night. We are never together anymore. She should have time to rest, too.
It's all right, Erich. I feel fine. I would love to go.
Put on your blue dress. That is the prettiest.
All right, Hans. Who is it?
Erich.
Oh, come in. I was just going to bed, Erich.
If you can stay up this late, 5 minutes more won't make much difference. I've been trying to talk to you for days. You've been avoiding me. Why?
Oh, please, Erich.
I don't like it. He came here as a friend, but now I don't know. He acts as if he owns you. What does it all mean?
You're dreaming things, Erich.
Dreaming? He was going to stay for a week. Now it's been almost a month. Where does he get all his money? He bought a new car, he takes it to nightclubs, and all his friends, his secrets.
Oh, I don't know, Erich. I don't know.
I don't like it. Whatever it is wrong. I'm going to tell him to go.
No, Erich. No.
Listen, Wanda, I'm your brother. I don't want to cause you any unhappiness, but there's something about him...
Stop! I love Hans. We are going to be married. These are the men I've met. I've tried to describe them, too.
Good. Anything else new?
Hans is getting impatient. He keeps talking about the plans.
I have them for you. At least the ones we want to fall into their hands.
Do you want me to give them to Hans?
Up to him, to the whole group.
They're coming over tonight.
What time?
8 o'clock at my house.
Fine. You give them the plans. Leave the rest to me.
Hello, sweetheart. What's the matter? You look as though something had happened.
I got the plans. I got into the files just before they closed it.
That's wonderful. Let me see them.
No. I want to be sure they keep their promise about my father. I want to give them to Gruber.
All right. They'll be here in a few moments. There's a special meeting.
But you said 8 o'clock.
They're on their way here now. Why don't you make a bite? I'm going to clean up.
Dallas speaking. Hello?
Wanda, no towels.
I'll get some for you.
Phoning somebody?
I was checking the time, operator. I think my watch is slow.
It is 6:55, darling. I always know what time it is.
Better get things ready.
Something light. We will feast after we are finished. Ruthie should be here in a few moments.
The meeting is earlier, Mr. Thomas. In the next few minutes. I thought I would be too late. Good. Goodbye.
Who are you phoning?
It was nothing. Just a friend at the factory. About to work tomorrow.
It is Grote and our friends. Come.
You need have no concern, Miss Bachman. You rendered a great service, not only to yourself, but to a cause worthy of your fine efforts.
Thank you, Mr. Grote.
I told you we could depend on Miss Bachman, didn't I?
Yes, Hans. You have a remarkable capacity for judging human nature. And now, Miss Bachman, would you be kind enough to hand over the plans? Yes. It is what we want. You have been very cooperative, Miss Bachman. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you. But what about my father? You promised.
Your young lady has done splendidly. I think she's deserving of something very special this evening. This lovely country, good roads, too. A ride to the beach, or up to the hills. You know all the scenic spots, Hans.
But I did everything you asked. Why, those plans are very valuable. I could have gotten into trouble. I still could. Please, Mr. Grote, I'll do anything you ask. I'll work for you again. I'll do anything.
Good night.
Gruther, Mueller, you're under arrest.
Hans, don't I mean anything to you? You told me you loved me.
Why not? You are a very pretty girl. Let her go, Hans. Operator, get me to the police department, please. Hello, police. I have just killed a man. Yes. I'm Erich Bachman, 7325 Latrona Drive.
I didn't interfere in the matter at that point because there were other members of the spy ring we wanted to round up.
Then Erich Bachman is not aware of your activities in this matter at all.
It's been a confidential file up to this moment. He doesn't even know his sister was working with my department.
You still think she's a spy and a traitor?
You straighten him out on that point. I think he'll talk readily enough.
Well, thank you, Mr. Thomas. I don't know. Oh, you said that your files on this case were confidential up until this moment.
I'll make available to you any information you need to free your client. If ever there was a case of justifiable homicide, this is it.
Thank you. Jeff Thomas was right. Once Erich Bachman knew his sister was still a loyal citizen, he talked plenty in his own defense. I had no trouble getting an acquittal in his case. The case you have just seen was brought to a fair and just conclusion through the efforts of a public defender. A public defender is an attorney employed by the community. and responsible for giving legal aid without cost to any person who seeks it and is financially unable to employ private counsel. It is his duty to defend those accused of crime until the issue is decided in a court of law. The first public defender's office in the United States was opened in January 1913. Over the years, other offices were opened. And today, that handful has grown to a network of lawyers cooperating to protect the rights of our clients. Now, from the files of the public defender, we bring you the story we call Badge of Honor. Tonight, I'm going to tell you of a case, the final chapter of which was written only this morning, when Traffic Sergeant Dan Conway was laid to rest, meeting his death far and beyond the line of duty. Fellow officers and friends were gathered at the grave to pay this brave young officer a final and deserving tribute. There was an honor guard from the Legion Police Post, Doris Conway bearing up bravely in the true tradition of a police officer's wife, Dan's good friend, Detective Lieutenant Walsh, and even Captain of Police Gunderson himself. Well, no longer did Gunderson need to have any qualms about Dan.
To Sergeant Daniel Conway, his badge was more than just a shining piece of metal. It was a badge of honor. He cherished it and wore it well. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness.
The path of righteousness. Dan had found it. And I had been right about him all along. My faith in the boy hadn't been misplaced. The end of World War II had found Private First Class Dan Conway convalescing in a Normandy base hospital. And as he lay there, recovering from the tortures and undernourishment of a Nazi prison camp, he was thinking ahead, what he'd do when he got back home. And he knew he had a sympathetic confidant in the person of Miss Norton, a kindly and understanding Red Cross nurse.
How's our policeman today?
Doc says a month more should get me out of here.
Well, that should make you happy. Have you written your wife the good news?
Well, I started a letter, but began to feel a little bit groggy.
Oh, let me finish it for you. Just tell me what to say.
Well, first I want to thank Doris for those books she sent me to help me pass my civil service exam.
And after we thank Mrs. Conway for the books, anything more?
Yeah. Tell her to be a sweetheart and go down to the police department and pick up an application for me so I can fill it out first thing I get home.
First thing, Dan?
Well, almost. After I untangle myself in that great big hug and a kiss. Oh, I've been promising myself this for a long time.
Me too.
Say, honey,
Yes, dear?
where's that application blank?
Now, Dan,
Well, I don't want to lose any time.
you've got plenty of time. I just found out last week that there won't be another examination until June 1st.
6 months? I'll be the first cop with a long gray beard.
It'll tickle, but I'll still love you. Oh, Dan, Mr. Johnson phoned, wanted to know when you'd be out. You can have your old route back.
Okay, but just until June the 1st.
Say, is this your regular route?
Yes, sir.
I just moved into apartment 4. How about dropping off a couple of quarts every morning?
Well, I'll be glad to, sir. Your name?
Lieutenant Walsh.
Army?
Police.
Oh. Say, that's my racket. I mean, it's going to be. In June, I'm taking exams. Are they tough?
They're not easy.
I guess they have to be. Otherwise, any guy could be a cop. I mean a policeman.
You look like you might make it.
Thanks. But, I could use a few pointers, Lieutenant.
Anytime, son, if I can help.
You sure can.
How about your weight? Seems to me you could use a few more pounds.
Guess I could. But where I was boarding, the Nazis didn't exactly feed you meat and potatoes every day.
You better work on that, or else when you go for your examinations, you won't get any further than the scales.
Dan took the advice to heart. If he had to eat his way into the force, Doris was just the girl who could help him make the grade. And Lieutenant Walsh, who had taken a sincere liking to Dan, was making it his personal job to see that Dan was properly prepared for the civil service examination. It was a tough one, and Dan, sweating it out, nervous and tense, wasn't sure he could pass. When the good news came, it was cause for a celebration dinner.
When I got that postcard notifying me I'd passed, I started to breathe all over again. 80%. That's not too bad, huh?
Don't you think Lieutenant Walsh deserves a little credit?
Forget it. This is Dan's night to howl. When you come back to Earth, Dan, you're going to find out that being a police officer means a lot more than just carrying a billy club. A lot of responsibility goes with the job.
Maybe you ought to stick to your milk route, dear.
Not me. Tomorrow morning, I'm giving the firm my notice.
It's time enough for that, Dan. You're not a policeman yet.
Oh, but I'm over the biggest hurdle. Rest should be a breeze.
Well, there's still the oral exam. Get a line on your character and temperament, a psychiatric test.
That's to find out if I'm all there.
Sometimes I wonder.
Hey, one more crack like that from you, Liddy, I'll have to lock you up.
Dan, you got some rugged weeks ahead of you. Granted, you get by the exam. You still got 90 days of the toughest grind you've ever been through before you even start your probationary period.
Oh, you haven't any cranberries, Lieutenant.
Oh, thank you.
Lieutenant Walsh was right, as Dan found out. There were track workouts until Dan wondered how much longer he could stand on his feet. Hours of grueling exercises in conditioning. Day after day at the rifle range to become expert in the use of firearms. And at last, a final dress parade in which Dan marched with a sense of real accomplishment. An important day to him. He had earned the right to wear the coveted uniform.
You've worked hard for that badge, Conway. Now wear it with honor.
Yes, sir.
As division commander, I'll be keeping tab on you. And I'm a pretty tough officer. I've handled enough rookies to know all the answers.
So watch yourself if you want me to turn in a good report.
Yes, sir.
You're being assigned to traffic, and your future on the force depends entirely on yourself. As you know, probation is 6 months. In that time, you'll rise or fall on your record. Just don't try to be too much of an eager beaver, like one of my rookies who gave out 35 tickets in one day. Badge-happy rookies don't last long.
I understand, sir.
On the other hand, there's no room for good Joes on the force either. There's a happy medium between overzealousness and gold-breaking.
And I hope you have common sense enough to recognize it. Good luck.
How'd it work, huh?
Today's report.
How you making out?
2 tickets. That's my whole day's work. I never saw so many well-behaved citizens.
Don't try to force it, kid. You'll get your chance.
Let's have that wallet.
What wallet?
Come on, give.
Look, all I'm doing is minding my own business, and you come along and give me
Knock
nothing.
it off, up against the wall. Go on.
You ain't gonna find nothing. Told you I ain't got no wallet.
Is this what you're looking for, officer?
Yeah, where'd you find it, son?
The guy tried to ditch it while you was chasing him.
Okay, fella. Looks like we got a little date downtown.
Well, oh, I'm so glad you caught him, officer.
This your wallet?
Yes, officer.
What's your name, ma'am?
Mrs. Mabel Wilson. You'll find it in the card right inside.
What's your address, Miss Wilson?
964 Archer Place. May I have my wallet now, please? Thank you, officer.
I wanted you to look over my report before Captain Gunderson sees it. This is the first big fish I've caught. Want to make sure everything's right.
The kid who saw him ditch the wallet. You should have included his name.
Yes, I know. I didn't get it.
This boy's your key witness, Dan. You know you've got to get the names of everybody.
Guess there's no excuse. I goofed it. Everything happened so fast. Before I knew it, the kid was away with his bike, and
Too bad. Captain Gunderson doesn't miss a point. He's sure to call you on this.
But look, Lieutenant, I've only got 2 hands. I had to make sure the suspect didn't get away. And then there was this lady asking for a wallet.
Look, Dan, I'm talking to you as a friend. There's no sense kidding you. Gunderson's gonna hop all over you.
But the guy is guilty. I know he snatched it.
It's up to a jury to decide whether he's guilty or not. You're just the arresting officer making a report.
This report can wash me up, can it?
Well, you got a couple of months.
Thought you said you wouldn't kid me.
You know, it's too bad you didn't find the wallet on the guy.
Is something worrying you, dear?
No. No, why?
You look as if you had the whole weight of the world on your shoulders.
Just tired, I guess.
And this was the night you were going to help me reline that kitchen cabinet.
Some other time,
Welcher. That's probably Lieutenant Walsh, and I'll bet you're not too tired for a gin game.
Hi, Doris. Thought I'd just drop over and give Dan a chance to get some of his money back.
Good. Maybe you can pull him out of the doldrums.
Still thinking about that report, kid? Worry won't help.
What report, Dan?
Oh, it was just a pinch I made yesterday. I guess I forgot to tell you about it.
Now, don't tell me you actually made a real arrest and kept it a secret.
Just a petty theft. Nothing world-shattering.
But, Dan, I should think you'd be terribly excited. It'll help your record, and isn't that what you've wanted? Who can that be?
I'd like to speak to Officer Conway.
Oh, I'm Officer Conway.
I'm Bart Matthews, Public Defender's Office.
This is Mrs. Conway.
Hello.
Mrs. Conway?
And, Lieutenant Walsh.
Lieutenant, I've seen you around headquarters.
Oh, if this is police business of some sort, I think I should leave you men alone.
I'll only be a few minutes, Mrs. Conway. It's about this fellow Brown, man you arrested yesterday. Our office is defending him, and we'd be remiss in our duties if we didn't run down every lead.
Oh, certainly, sir. Well, won't you sit down?
Thanks. You know, I have to check with you, Conway. It's part of my job. It seems that there's some question about your report.
You mean there's something in my report that wasn't clear?
Just a point I'd like to clean up. Now, you say you found the wallet on Brown when you frisked him. Brown says that isn't so. You got the wallet from a boy who passed by on a bicycle. Was there a boy, or did Brown make this story up out of whole cloth?
It's all in my report, Mr. Matthews, just as it happened. There wasn't any kid.
And that's the way you'll testify at the hearing?
Yes, sir.
Well, you can't blame a guy for trying.
That's right, you can't blame a guy for trying. That not only applies to petty thieves, right, Dan?
Well, I'm sorry I had to bother you, Conway. Guess the best advice I can give to Brown is that he enter a plea of guilty and pray he gets a lenient judge. You know, it's funny, the sort of lies a guy will latch onto to save his skin.
Yeah, it is.
Well, that's that. Thanks for your time, Conway. Good night.
Night. I know what you're thinking, Lieutenant. Why don't you say it? I think I'm a heel. That I don't deserve this badge. But I had a responsibility. Here was a guy that had stolen a wallet. And he might get off scot-free because of a little mistake of mine.
It wasn't because you weren't thinking of yourself?
Well, maybe that had something to do with it. But you told me yourself I was on a spot. What else was I gonna do? Have Gunderson lay it on? Maybe can me? Do you want me to throw away a whole future all because of a little technicality?
I wouldn't want your future now, son. Not while you've got to live with that little technicality and your conscience.
Where's everybody?
Oh, I told Walsh I didn't feel like a game tonight. He left with Matthews.
What did Mr. Matthews want?
Well, nothing important. Just about that arrest I made yesterday. His office is defending the fella. They always question the arresting officer. Just routine stuff.
You look beat, Dan.
I just got a little headache, that's all.
Sure?
Yeah, sure.
Then why not turn in? Make it an early night. What is it, dear? What's wrong?
I'm not sure you'll understand, Doris.
Haven't I always?
Do you think you'd understand if I told you that I'm a fraud? That I don't deserve a badge?
I don't believe it, Dan. You don't know what you're saying.
Look, Doris, I've always given it to you straight, but this is going to be hard to take. When I made that arrest yesterday, I falsified a report. I falsified it deliberately.
But why, dear?
What's the difference why I did it? I was so hot on becoming a cop, I threw away the book of rules and made my own. Maybe I tried to kid myself. It didn't matter because the guy was guilty anyway. But the real reason was I was scared stiff of Gunderson. Anyway, it's done.
Oh, Dan, I wish I could tell you what to do.
I know what to do, honey. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to see the public defender. I'm going to change my story.
What you've just told me, Conway, could finish your career.
I realize that, sir.
When do you plan to see Captain Gunderson?
Right after I leave here, Mr. Matthews.
Now, wait a minute. Let's think about this. Now, that doesn't mean I'm condoning this false report.
Oh, I know that, sir.
Since advice here is free and I give it out all day long, you mind if I give you some?
I certainly could use it, Mr. Matthews.
Well, I'd suggest you don't do anything. Just go about your work. Brown's preliminary hearing doesn't come up for a couple of days, so let me think it over, huh? Dan had told me of his friendship with Lieutenant Walsh. Fortunately, I ran across Walsh at the police academy while I was waiting for Captain Gunderson to join me for lunch.
What first attracted me to Dan was his sincere desire to become a good officer. I couldn't believe he'd foul up a report. When I found out about it, it threw me. But after what you told me, how Dan came to you, I guess I wasn't wrong about the kid.
Then there are two of us who think that Dan is worth going to bat for.
Captain Gunderson, Bart.
Maybe it's best if I speak to him alone.
Much.
Well, John, right on time.
Well, it's a free lunch. I'm always prompt. What's on your mind, Bart?
Do I have to have something on my mind to ask you to lunch?
To give you a short answer, yes.
Well, all right. It's a hypothetical case. I'm curious to know how you'd handle it if it were up to you.
Let's have it.
Well, suppose that one of your probationers, in his anxiety to make good in your eyes, overstepped himself.
How?
I'll get to that, but let's say that getting on the force as a regular is almost an obsession with this fellow. Now, he's worried that he hasn't made much of a record so far. Then he makes a pinch.
What kind of a pinch?
Well, maybe he catches a man who snatches a purse. A witness sees the man drop the purse, identifies the suspect, turns the purse over to the officer, who gets a little flustered. Now, remember, it's his first arrest. He forgets to take the witness's name.
I'd put him on the carpet.
Oh, but there's more, John. He's sure the man is the thief, but he knows what to expect if he admits the error in his report. So he falsifies it, says that he found the purse on the man when he frisked him.
And you want to know what kind of action I'd take? I'd kick your hypothetical officer right off the force. Come on, let's eat. Hi, Bart. Hello, John.
I asked you to come over today because I've got a hypothetical case for you.
Oh, yeah?
Sit down. Suppose in my spot, you get a memo from the DA that a case has been dropped in which one of your probationers had made the arrest. Let's say a pickpocket suspect is being sent back to Omaha for jumping parole. You follow me?
Sure.
So you give a final check to the officer's report. Your probationer's first pinch. Now, certain facts ring a bell. Makes you think of a luncheon conversation you had. In other words, putting two and two together, you're sure the report was falsified. What would you do?
Well, I'm sure I'd look into the circumstances first.
Let's stop shadowboxing, Bart. We're both talking about Dan Conway. Evidently, he falsified his report. And if so, he ought to be washed out.
I suppose so, John, if you just want to go by the rules. But if you knew the facts...
The facts are he's been derelict in his duties. Why are you so interested in him anyway?
If Dan has made a mistake, no one knows it better than he does. Oh, I agree with you. If a wrong has been committed, it should be punished. But he's had his punishment. A punishment much bigger than you could ever mete out. A tortured conscience. So tortured that he came to see me on his own. And he would have gone to see you if I hadn't stopped him. Voluntarily, he admitted to me that he falsified his report, even though he knew that no one would ever discover his lie if he chose to live with it. Now, it took a brave man to do that, John, a big man. It showed character and respect for the uniform. Keep him on the force, and I'll underwrite him. We need men like that.
All right, Bart. I'm sold.
Thanks, John. You won't regret it.
Now get out of here, will you, before you talk me into promoting the guy to a sergeant. But seriously, Bart, we can't overlook this thing entirely. Suppose I recommend 30 days suspension.
Don't you think 5 days would serve the same purpose?
Now I know why you're such a good public defender.
Thanks, John. When Dan finally became a member of the force, there was a celebration.
You cut the cake, Dan.
You know, this is one day I'll never forget. And I've got you to thank for it, Mr. Matthews. I suppose some people might think, why all the celebration? Just another cop.
But you're a very special one to me, Dan.
And Dan Conway became a very special one to all of us, with a very special place in our hearts. As we laid him to rest, we all remembered how he had worn his badge with honor for 7 years. Then, 2 days ago, as he was driving home, he noticed a car wildly careening down the highway. In a matter of seconds, it would collide head-on with a school bus. Deliberately sideswiping it on his motorcycle, Dan Conway saved the lives of a dozen school children and gave his own.
Ready. Aim. Fire. Now.
It's good to remember this story of Dan Conway. For too often we take for granted the courageous deeds of our police. The case you have just seen was brought to a fair and just conclusion through the efforts of a public defender. I'm Bart Matthews, your public defender.
The public defender's salary is paid for by the community, and he is charged with the responsibility of giving legal aid free of charge to any person who seeks and needs it. It is the public defender's sworn duty to defend the public accused of crime until they are proved guilty in a court of law. Now, from the files of the public defender, we bring you the case we call Behind Bars.
One of those sudden, hard-to-explain accidents, Mr. Matthews. A flash explosion in one of the boilers turned the place into a sea of escaping steam and flying metal.
Is that where this Mrs. Smith was hurt?
Yes, she was badly burned over her arms and body. She suffered horribly. She thought she was going to die. And that's when she began crying for her baby.
Her baby?
She wanted to see her child before she died.
Well, couldn't that have been arranged?
Yes, but her prison record doesn't contain any reference to a child. As a matter of fact, we found a number of discrepancies in her record, including the fact that her real name was never disclosed at the trial.
Then she's not Mrs. Jenny Smith.
No, her real name is Mrs. Tom Richardson.
Well, Warden, what makes you think this is a matter for the public defender?
Well, I've studied her record, and I've come to the conclusion that there's more to Jenny Smith's case than ever came out in the trial.
Well, just what do you want me to do about this Jenny Smith? Or Jenny Richardson?
Oh, I just want you to have a talk with her. Then do whatever you think you ought to do.
All right.
Jenny, I want you to meet Mr. Bart Matthews, the public defender.
Hello, Mrs. Smith.
What does he want with me?
He just wants to talk to you. It's the same as though you were discussing things with your private attorney. Everything you say will be held in the strictest confidence.
Thank you, Warden.
Listen to him, Jenny.
All right, what do you want to talk to me about?
I understand you have a young daughter.
Yes.
When did you see her last?
About 3 years ago.
Since you've been up here?
No, I've been up here 2 years. I didn't see her for a whole year before that.
Can you tell me why, Jenny?
My husband and I were divorced. He got custody of the child.
Tom Richardson, is that your husband's name?
My ex-husband.
I understand that none of this information appears in the records of your trial.
I know.
You were represented by counsel. Why didn't he bring all of this out?
He didn't know. I didn't tell him.
Why didn't you cooperate with your attorney?
Because it would have meant dragging my husband in. I didn't want to drag my baby into it.
In other words, you chose not to cooperate with your attorney, is that it?
That's right.
Why?
Why don't you leave me alone? I'm doing my time up here.
Jenny, if you want to see your baby again, you must cooperate with me. Why did you hide your identity? Why didn't you allow your husband to come forward and testify in your behalf? Why, Jenny?
Because I've caused him enough trouble already. The way our marriage broke up was all my fault. Mr. Matthews, I was an alcoholic.
I see.
I had to leave. I had to go my own way. And then finally I got so tired. I was so alone. All I cared about was a roof over my head. Some place to crawl in and rest.
Yes, can I help you?
Do you have a room?
Yes, but I generally rent my rooms by the week or by the month.
I'll take it for a week.
Do you have any references?
References? No.
Oh, just thought I'd ask. No one has references anymore. All right, young woman, I'll show you what I have.
Thank you.
Don't thank me until you see if you like the room. My name's Mrs. Bassett.
I'm sure I'll like it.
What'd you say your name was?
Smith. Mrs. Ginny Smith.
Yeah, I've heard that one before.
Well, Mrs. Bassett, don't you usually knock before entering a gentleman's room?
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Redmond. Oh, this poor head of mine, these headaches. I don't know what they'll cause me to do next. Imagine not even remembering you changed rooms this morning. Will you forgive me?
Sure, I'll forgive you. Is this one of your new roomers?
Yes, and her name's Mrs. Smith. I'll show her your old room.
Mrs. Smith. Pleased to meet you, Mrs. Smith.
Oh, this is more like it. My poor head, I'm getting more and more forgetful every day. You think it'll do?
I beg your pardon?
The room, I asked if you'd think it'll do.
Oh, yes, Mrs. Bassett. It'll be just fine.
I should think it would. This room even has a radio. That's more than most rooms have. You know, there's a shortage of good rooms in this neighborhood. I turn people away every day who are looking for rooms.
Well, people have to have a roof over their heads. They can't sleep in the street.
I run a respectable place, and I usually know something about the people I take in. A person can't be too careful these days.
Well, you won't have to worry about me, Mrs. Bassett.
Mm-hmm. Well, the rent's payable in advance, $10.
Do you want it all at once?
All at once.
All right, $10.
Oh, that's fine. Did you say the name was Mrs. Smith?
Yes, I did.
That's what they all say. They can't expect me to believe them, though. I may be old and sick, but I'm not blind.
Well, whether you believe it or not, it is Mrs. Smith.
Oh, if you say you're married, young lady, I won't argue with you. It's your own business, not mine.
I was married. I'm not now.
Divorced?
Yes.
I don't approve of divorce. I was married to the same man for 41 years. Mr. Bassett, he was. A kind old gentleman. He was always so nice to me whenever I felt poorly. I say there's something wrong with a woman who can't hold on to a man.
Mrs. Bassett, I'm sorry, but I'm so tired. Do you mind?
Oh, excuse me. These awful headaches. Oh, me so. Remember now, rules of the house. No men visitors and no drinking.
Yes, Mrs. Bassett, I'll remember. Since we've been together. We even have music, Tom. Kathy should be talking by now. She's almost 2 years old. Oh, how I wish I could be together with you and Kathy again, Tom. As though nothing had ever happened.
9 o'clock and the night is still young. This is Hap Morton, your genial MC, bringing you 3 hours of your favorite program, Moods of Happiness. A mood for dreams, a mood for love, as we approach the time of midnight. This is Hap Morton, bringing you the final quarter hour of your favorite Moods of Happiness.
going on? What are you doing here?
Just a little social call. What's better? Don't you like company?
You get out. What do you want?
Hey, hear the music? They're playing our song. How about a little dance, baby?
No.
Come.
You don't belong in here. You get out.
What's the matter? All I asked for was a little dance. Oh, you're lonely, aren't you?
Oh, no, I'm not lonely.
Don't you kid me, baby. Women who live in places like this, cool little furnished rooms, are always lonely.
Don't touch me. Leave me alone. You get out. You get out or I'll scream for help.
Hey, who'll hear you? Old Lady Bassett? What do you think, Old Lady Bassett will help you? Baby, you've already broken the first rule of the house. You might as well break the second.
Leave me alone, please. Please,
Oh,
leave
baby,
me alone.
A little kiss won't do any harm.
Well, what are you doing in here, Mr. Redmond?
Well, what's the guy gonna do when a lady invites him in?
No, that's not true. He forced his way in here.
Playing the radio at this hour of the night, me with my terrible headaches. And after all I said about not permitting liquor on the premises.
No, he's lying. He's lying.
Is he now? Now you'll be telling me this is your husband, the fine fellow.
Give me that picture. Give me that picture.
You didn't fool me then, and you don't fool me now. He never was your husband.
Well, now look what you've done.
But you will be doing the looking. Right this minute, you can start looking for another place.
What's wrong with her? The way she's lying there. She's not dead. She can't be dead.
She is, baby. You know who killed her.
No. I didn't do it. I didn't kill her. I didn't kill her.
Remember, baby, this is your rap. It's all yours.
According to the bill of particulars that resulted in your indictment for murder, you were charged with beating Mrs. Bassett to death.
Oh, no, I didn't beat her.
Well, in your intoxicated state, perhaps.
No, I didn't beat her, Mr. Matthews. I remember that moment as if it were now.
What about the liquor, Jenny?
I haven't had one drop since that night. And I don't need to drink now, Mr. Matthews. What I've been through has cured me.
I wish I could believe that, Jenny.
You can believe that. You can. All I care about, Mr. Matthews, is seeing my little girl again. It's all I care about. This is what kept me alive after the accident. I prayed to stay alive so that I could see my baby again. Can you help me, Mr. Matthews? Can you help me? Please help me.
I'll do what I can, Jenny. The first thing I did for Jenny was to locate her husband. Tom Richardson? Yes? I'm Bart Matthews, the public defender.
What do you want to see me about?
How is Kathy?
Kathy? How do you know about Kathy?
Is she all right?
She's fine. She's taking her nap. And what's this all about?
Recognize who that is?
Where did you get this?
Your wife, isn't it, Mr. Richardson?
It's my ex-wife. We're divorced. Look, I don't know what your racket is, but...
No racket, Mr. Richardson. As I told you, I'm the public defender.
I'm sorry I didn't mean that. I'm just trying to say that I'm not interested in my ex-wife anymore. The whole chapter's over. Like a closed book. She doesn't have any claim on me.
What about Kathy?
She doesn't have any claim on Kathy either.
I want to help your wife.
My ex-wife. Well, you came to the wrong guy. I did all I could for her. If she got into some kind of trouble, it's her own lookout, not mine.
Don't you know what kind of trouble?
I'm not interested. Every time I turned the other way, she was hitting the bottle. It's like some kind of sickness. She was so weak, she didn't know how to fight it. And then came that awful day.
I'd thrown out all the liquor in the house, so Ginny got the habit of running down to the corner bar during the baby's nap. Only this time, she left a hot iron on the table and the place caught fire. The cops found her in the bar.
Was Kathy hurt?
We got her out just in time. The judge put Ginny on probation. I filed for a divorce. Got custody of the child. Just about everything else I asked for.
Including your wife's resignation from the human race, no doubt.
All right, what else could I have done?
You might have tried helping her.
All right, what'd you say you were, the public defender? Okay, you help her.
You don't seem to understand, Mr. Richardson. Do you have any idea where your wife is?
No.
For the past 2 years, she's occupied a cell in the women's penitentiary.
What? What for?
For murder.
Not Ginny.
Yes, Ginny.
When did it happen? Why didn't you tell me about it?
She didn't want to bring your name or Kathy's name into it. She stood trial as Ginny Smith.
Murder?
She was charged with beating her landlady to death.
Oh, no, that's wrong, Mr. Matthews.
What's wrong?
Ginny couldn't beat anyone to death. She's the opposite type. She's a mouse. She's timid. That was all part of her weakness. Why she took to drink. So she wouldn't be afraid.
Afraid of what?
Maybe it's all my fault. I've been afraid to face it. I was a prisoner of war in Korea. I was captured the same week that Kathy was born. They held me for 11 months, including locking me up in a hole for 22 days. You don't get over the kind of treatment I had in a hurry. When I got back, I guess I didn't give Ginny much of a chance. She couldn't have done it, not Ginny. Mr. Matthews, isn't there anything we could do to help her?
There is something you could do, Tom. Tomorrow's Sunday, visiting day at the prison. Why don't you go to see her and take Kathy along? It would really help her if she could see Kathy.
We'll be up there, Mr. Matthews. Both Kathy and I.
While Tom Richardson and Kathy were renewing their acquaintance with Kathy's mother, I went over the records of the case. It soon became evident that the key to the entire matter was the witness named Al Redmond, who was present in the room when the murder was committed, if it was a murder. We asked the police department to aid us in locating Mr. Al Redmond.
Good morning, Mr. Matthews.
Hello, Bill. Did you locate Redmond?
I found him in another rooming house not 3 blocks from the scene of the crime.
What are we waiting for? Let's go.
Come in, the door's unlocked. What can I do for you boys?
I'm Bart Matthews, the public defender. This is Bill Benton.
Yeah? I don't need no defender today. You guys mind if I go on shaving?
No, go right ahead, Al. It's your skin.
What do you mean by that crack?
Do you remember the Ginny Smith trial?
Yeah. What about it?
Tell us what you saw, Al. What did you witness?
Look, I don't have to tell you guys nothing. I did all my talking on the witness stand.
Not afraid, are you, Al?
What do I gotta be afraid of?
Nothing, as far as I can see. What were you doing in that room, Al?
Listen, beat it, Buster, before I get rough.
I wouldn't try it, Al. There's a witness. You wouldn't stand a chance in court. The way Ginny Smith didn't stand a chance when you pinned that rap on her.
What do you mean, pin it on her? I saw her do it with my own eyes.
You certainly cried murder.
Yeah, I sure did.
And testified to that effect in court.
Yeah, that's me, star witness.
And saved your own skin.
Look, what are you talking about? I tell you, I saw her do it with my own eyes. She come in, she yanked the old woman by the hair and yanked on it until the old woman fell on her face and died.
How did she yank the old lady's hair, Al? How did she do it?
What do you mean?
Let's act it out. Sort of reenact the crime. Now, did she come up on her like this?
Yeah, in a way.
And then did she go like this?
Yeah.
And then did she do this?
Come here! What's the big idea? Cut it out, will you? What's the big idea?
Just checking, Al. You're still on your feet. You didn't fall down and die.
Yeah, I'm a healthy big guy, not a sick old woman with headaches all the time.
Wait a minute. Did you say that Mrs. Bassett was a sick woman?
That's right, she's always complaining, always running off to the doctor.
You wouldn't happen to remember the name of the doctor, would you?
Look, how would I remember the doctor?
Well, we'll find it. You just make sure you're around in case we need you.
Yes, we may have to call the star witness back to the stand again.
All right. I'll be around. I'll play ball.
We ran down Mrs. Bassett's physician, a Dr. Silas Morgan, only to find that he too had died shortly before the trial. I called the physician's credit bureau and found that Dr. Morgan's practice had been taken over by a Dr. James Pollard. Did you destroy those records, Dr. Pollard?
Destroy them? No, I destroy them. I just transferred them up to the attic to give us a little more room down here. Why, is there anything wrong?
No, nothing now. Do you mind if we look around your attic?
No, the place is yours, if you don't mind the dust.
Not at all. There was no system, no order to any of it. We went through an accumulation of 40 years of medical practice, thousands of cases of individual reports and histories, until we found what we were looking for.
There's no question about it, Mr. Matthews. These encephalographic findings definitely indicate an advanced and progressively worsening condition of hardening of the arteries in the brain.
Could you say how serious it was, Doctor?
Serious enough to corroborate Dr. Morgan's written opinion that Mrs. Bassett had a life expectancy of only a few months, that any form of excitement would cause instantaneous death.
Would you be willing to make a sworn statement to that effect? A great deal depends upon it, Doctor.
In that case, I would.
Thanks. With Dr. Pollard's medical testimony and the evidence of Dr. Morgan's records to support us, we prepared a petition for a pardon which was presented to the governor of the state. The governor granted the pardon.
Forget what you've done for us.
Never as long as we live.
Well, can I drive you home?
No, I have my car. Besides, we have a stop to make. The Marriage License Bureau.
As you just saw, Jenny Smith, or rather Virginia Richardson, is now reunited with a husband and daughter who will someday forget that they were ever apart. And so a woman who was once forgotten by the whole world has now found her place in that world again. We congratulate Public Defender James D. Cosgrove and his staff for outstanding achievement in the cause of justice.